open at 7:30, and they're open until 1 o'clock. They close on Mondays so they can get some rest. It's 2450 Estero Boulevard, and that's Mom's. Big hand for Tom Brady, everybody. Tom, how are you, man?
Great. How are you?
Good, good. It's great to see you again. Appreciate you coming on.
Good to be here.
How are things going in your life, and how are things going with living on Fort Myers Beach?
Excellent. Excellent. People are coming back. There was a line of 50 people, I think, this morning in front of Mom's, stacked up trying to get breakfast.
Nice.
Ditto with mojos, so really excited. And in spite of the fact that it's been cool, they're all out today, so I'm feeling good about it.
So quick recap, Tom is a candidate, one of only 3 candidates. I think that's the final tally, right? You didn't hear anybody squeeze in at the last minute that we missed, right? Just you, John, and Jim.
No announcement was made.
Okay. So the town council has an open seat because Jim Atterholt resigned, and the council a week from this coming Tuesday, because I think the Monday's President's Day.
Correct.
There will be a question and answer and then a vote, and hopefully they'll be able to come to what I thought was 3, but you apparently only need a 2 vote, and whoever gets the majority of the 4 members will be the new council member until November, when that seat is up for election, is what I understand.
Correct. With
the other 2 seats, John King's seat and Rebecca Link's seat. So there'll be 3 seats up this year. I got confused by Nancy about how many years this seat will be, whether it's 2 or 4, but I think it's all going to be 4, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's good because it splits the council up, so some people carry over.
Right. So, again, a little bit of history. There was a recall election here on Fort Myers Beach, and Karen and John were recalled. Karen was replaced by Rebecca Link, who beat Tom in the recall by 9-ish votes. Was it 9 or 7? It was below 10.
Yeah, I talked to Tommy Doyle, and he said there was 1 vote in question at the last time.
A hanging Chad vote.
Yeah.
So it was less than 10. But then, of course, John, there was a technicality in the recall, and John retained his seat. And then Bill Veach, who is a co-chair of the recall committee, appealed that, and that appeal is pending. And so Tom is reapplied for that seat, came in 2nd place in the recall, and here we are. Does that sound like an accurate recap so far?
Exactly.
Okay, so why did you decide that you wanted the seat after the whole recall thing? You wanted to re-enter when Jim decided to step aside?
Well, I think I'd gone through the process of validating with the public of what their intentions are. I walked door to door in this community, knocked on registered voters' doors to understand what the barometer, what the temperature of the community was, what they were looking for in the future, what they didn't like in the current system. And with that feedback, plus I held town halls, so down in Bay Beach Lane was one of them. And I think I have a good feeling for what's going on in this community. And I think I can bring that to my position as town councilor.
Do you think that you should be considered the front runner for that seat because of the way the recall concluded?
You'd have to ask the voters on that. It's a different environment. I think I should play into it, but I think I do have validation by the voter community, and I think that they should feel comfortable that the community as a whole thinks that I'm the right candidate for that job.
Okay, one of the things that threw kind of a monkey wrench into the situation was former council member Bill Veach got up, and in support of you, he said that he would drop his appeal if they appointed you to the seat. That was before anybody else. I think it was before anybody else put their name in, but that's not really relevant. So Bill Veach, I know you guys didn't talk about it. I think you were blindsided by it. You didn't know it was coming. And anyway, it threw a monkey wrench into that because, as it turns out, John, not that John was going to vote for you. If we're being honest, John wasn't going to vote for you anyway, but John is automatically kicked out of being able to vote for you because he would benefit financially if he did vote for you. And then Bill Veach decided to drop the recall. Do you think he did kind of damage your chances of being appointed by sticking his nose in the whole thing?
Well, I think 2020 hindsight, if he had to do it over again, he probably wouldn't do it. I think he did not expect that kind of reaction talking to him after the meeting. And I think I understood his intent. I expressed that in front of town council. That the 2 weeks after that, I told them, based on my discussions with Bill, where I thought he was coming from and what he was expecting. And I think it was just it was misconstrued or misunderstood about what his intentions were. And yeah, I wish it hadn't happened. It kind of muddied the waters, and then we are where we are.
But have you suggested to him to drop it?
I don't think now it doesn't matter. So it really doesn't matter. Not drop the whole appeal. His appeal is a just appeal. As far as dropping the don't try to save the money don't try to save the town money by withdrawing your appeal because you don't think a whole lot can be done in remaining term. I said just drop that offer. But the problem is the offer's out there now. You can't undo the offer, is what I've been told. So there's no sense trying to undo the offer because you can't. It's out there.
Yeah, I guess if he was going to drop the appeal, if you get appointed, why not just drop the appeal and at least take that off the table with the other council members? Because I don't know if the town benefits. If the town benefits and then he drops his appeal, the town kind of sort of does benefit because they don't have to pay John's legal bills anymore. And so why not just, if you're going to drop, there's only 9 months left before the election. I mean, holy shit, what's going on here? Don't they know we're doing a show? Nobody should get injured during this hour. So, but you know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to drop it, if Tom Brady gets appointed, why not drop it and just take the whole thing off the table?
Well, I don't. It's because it's his legal right to appeal this, and it looks like. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen by the time the election's decided, or until next November anyway. So, but that's his choice. I wouldn't. If he wants to appeal it. If he thinks that the basis of the recall was sound and he can get a judge to agree with him, then go forward with it. That's his right. There's no, that looks more like quid pro quo than anything else. And I think that he just
What do you mean?
shouldn't have done anything, meaning to offer to drop it
Yeah.
for something, that looks a little screwy to me. I just wish nothing would have been done, and then we wouldn't be talking about this right now.
Right. Okay, gotcha. All right. So have you been watching what's going on with the flood panels? And we are going to talk more about the flood panels tomorrow with the mayor. If you haven't had a chance to go back and watch the M&P meeting from Thursday, you should watch that. If flood panels are your thing and you were considering it or you have them, you should watch that because it's quite confusing to me. And I got a call last night from the CEO of Harrison Flood Panels, and he's obviously pissed off at what's going on down here, and he's angry with me for reporting what I reported. But when I went back and watched it again last night, and Fulmer, who works for the town's permitting company, he said the entire island. He didn't say A zone and coastal V zone or coastal A or whatever the hell the zones are. The guy said the entire island. And I clipped it. He said the entire island.
Yes.
The whole thing seems confusing to me, and that my goal is for the residents to understand what they can and cannot do. And I don't think that's clear by any means right now.
Well, what I took out of it is that that the town had approved. I think one of my neighbors had these barriers put up, and the town had approved because one of my neighbors had it red flagged after he put it up without a permit, and then I think they came back and they examined it and said whatever. But he pulled the red tag off, and they've been up for the last year until he returned from being out of town. So it looked like at some point there were some approvals of these flood panels being installed. And then I think subsequently FEMA came out and said, well, they're really a structural attachment, and we can't approve those. And that's the unfortunate thing in this case, I think, is I don't know all the facts around it, but that there was some confusion up front. People made investments. They were hoping that it was approved, and now they're stuck with people that have already installed these flood panels with the hopes of protecting their homes. Now, I do understand the logic or the FEMA uses. FEMA doesn't look at this as every individual case. They look at the island. These flood panels, when they're attached, will cause additional stress on the structure of the building, because if they're 6 feet tall, there's 400 pounds per square foot of pressure on the outside of the walls. The walls could blow in on these houses. I don't think that the people installing these panels are doing a structural survey of the buildings. The panels are perfectly capable of retaining the water pressure. It's the houses that they're worried about not being able to retain the water pressure. And that's the concern. I think, logically, if every house was certified to withstand that kind of pressure, flood proofing would make sense. And I think that's why it's approved for commercial buildings. And I'm not the engineer in this case. Mm-hmm. I'm an electrical guy, not a mechanical guy. And in this case, I think commercial buildings are certified to that many pounds per square feet for the height of those flood barriers, so they're okay. But they are in town's a little bit of a predicament for the poor people that have the sad case for the poor people that have.
This isn't like
already.
a $700 addition to your garage wall. This is a $30,000 structural adjustment that they made, thinking that they want to be protecting they're protecting their home, or at least part of their home, when the next storm comes through. And as we've seen with Helene and Milton, it's not like it's Ian and then nothing for 100 years. I mean, we're in an area where it can happen.
Yeah, and I think that it takes away a hope factor for some people that thought they could protect their single-story homes, which we want to retain on the island. So I would love to see it work, because I don't want to see I had to tear down my house and elevate, but I wish it would not have been substantially damaged, and I would have been looking at this for a solution. And if I had to go out and get the foundation certified for the weight load of the water, I would say, well, it makes sense. Why won't you let me do this? But so I'm very empathetic. But
so let's just assume you're on the city you're the town council. What would you, and you saw, you obviously you're educated on this issue by watching what's going on with the town. What would you say to the town manager at this point? What would you say that you want the town manager to get across to the residents to make them feel more comfortable?
Well, that we'll work with you on all possible alternatives, especially the condos that John brought up in the meeting, that if the condos install these just around their electrical facilities, for example, with their breaker panels, and there's nothing else involved in that on the ground floor of these condo buildings, then we really need to work with them. Plus, they're commercial structures. They were built to meet the commercial loads. There's probably not going to have anything happen to them. So the town ought to work with them. Now, the town's got this balance of FEMA. FEMA looks at the island as a whole, not each individual person. And if you want to keep your flood insurance for the island as a whole, which there's a lot of feedback that says we do, nobody wants to give that up, then you've got to meet FEMA's needs also. So the town is in a bind here.
Yeah, and just for whatever it's worth, the CEO of the flood panel company, Harrison, and one other person that everybody respects on this island did tell me that part of the issue is the floodplain manager on the beach and the lack of cooperation. And I don't know that the floodplain manager has to cooperate with a commercial business or anybody else other than reporting to the town manager and making sure that whatever the resident is doing is meeting the codes and meeting what FEMA wants and that. So I don't know, but I'm just saying that's where they're targeting a lot of the blame there. And
yeah, I don't know. That's maybe something worth looking at, but I have no date on that.
And Dan said, the mayor has told me multiple times, there's two people on Fort Myers Beach that pretty much you got to listen to what they say, and that's the building inspector and the floodplain manager, because their licenses are at risk.
Correct.
So, all right. So let's move on. There'll be more on that tomorrow with the mayor. Clarify for folks that want to know what your role was or is in the Seagate situation.
Well, I've obviously not been in support of the decision to approve that project for a number of reasons. And I worked on behalf of residents that live adjacent to the Seagate property. I worked to form a 501c3 to explore the legal opportunities available to the people that live right next door, adjacent to where that property would be developed. We had support from all the residents that were next to the property that were not in support of the project. They all can't get the funding that they could have gotten to proceed with their legal avenues. So I worked with others to form a 501c3, some of whom are here. And we worked to raise funds so that we could engage an attorney to protect these people. So the named plaintiffs, and I'm not one of them, Dan Riddle, Mike Dagnese, John and Connie Spataro.
I think there are like 7 or 8 of them. You can see them all in the filing if you look at it.
They're people that I think need to have their rights protected, and that's what we've been doing, and that's why we filed a writ. A writ is not a lawsuit. I don't think it's cost the town a dime, because Seagate's attorneys have been involved in this, and it depends on a judge looking at the process and a judge reviewing what's been done. When our town council reviews these things, they review them as judges, or quasi-judicial review of the project that came in front of them, and they should judge according to the rules in the rule book. They do sometimes, because they're also legislators, they do legislate from the bench at times, and I understand that, but I think that should be few and far between. Change the laws first, don't legislate from the bench. But in this case, I considered it legislating from the bench, and they approved the project. And I think that there were a lot of reasons why data that was presented by Seagate that wasn't correct, that it should be reviewed by another judge, a higher level judge. So you appeal their decision, and you appeal it to another judge, a real judge, not a quasi-judicial judge. And that judge reviews the case and says, well, did they follow the law? Did they give due process, and everything from a legal standpoint? So that's where it sits today.
So let me ask you specifically about that. What rules do you think? I'm not. I always say I can't believe the council approved 17 stories, but what rules do you think that the council didn't follow? It was underneath the whatchamacallit, the what am I looking? What word am I looking for? It was underneath the. Help me out here, Dave. The what? Density was under the. Thank you. Was under the density. I'm having a brain fart. And they offered public benefit, which is wishy-washy. And so what rules specifically do you think they didn't follow?
So it was for public benefit, and they didn't justify all the public benefit. Well, public benefit at first was unjustified. So you've got something that is capricious and subjective that they ruled on, and that's not right. I don't think. They need some facts based on it. They ruled on hearsay that came in outside of the meeting, and they admitted that they ruled on hearsay. If you have evidence that is part of your decision in that process, then you need to have that evidence presented in front of your quasi-judicial hearings. You can't say that somebody told me this and it was something that happened outside of that meeting. That's not proper. And I think the judge alone should rule on that and say, because that's what some of the votes were based on.
Are you specifically talking about either Jim or John saying they heard one of the LPA members say something in a public meeting? Is that the specifics of that?
No, I think that it's all outlined in the brief.
Okay.
And I don't have the brief memorized, but there was this case where John said that the reason why he was voting on it was because he wasn't the smartest person in the world, something along those lines, but he trusted Jim Dunlap to provide evidence, or he trusted Jim Dunlap that we need it for economic reasons. Well, great. Bring that in as part of the case.
I see.
Nobody presented the data about why we need that from an economic benefit standpoint, but that was his reason for the decision. So, you can't say that. You got to bring it in. You got to bring an expert in, and then I would have brought in 3 experts on financial stuff that says, well, that's not even the case. And because we did not hear any of that data, none of it was presented, I don't know how you can rule on that.
So the goal is for you to hopefully get a judge's ruling in your favor, and that only means that it gets kicked back to the council for a reconsideration.
Exactly.
And then it could be this year, it could be next year, it could be when I'm dead. I mean, it just seems like there's no determination by a court about when they rule on cases. You have no indication. Nobody does.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So, what do you think about whether town council members should meet individually, privately with developers? Would you do it if you were on the council?
Ooh, it'd be very hard for me to do that.
Is that a yes or a no?
It's a maybe.
I don't think that's an answer, though, Tom.
I can't I can't think of a case that I would do that. I think they can present all their data in the public. I see why some people, I know some people do meet with them. It's done in other communities, but I can tell you if I met with them, I would keep detailed minutes of what I spoke about, what the subject matter was. If it's something that I needed clarification on that I didn't think they had happened or would expedite a meeting, let's say that, it was just data that they presented me, not a discussion of back and forth of trade-offs, that kind of thing. No way would I talk about that. But if it was a lack of my understanding about what they were proposing, and I thought that that might speed council up, that might be an example where I would talk to them, and then I would take meeting minutes and submit that to the town and say,
Yeah.
this is everything we talked about.
If I was ever elected, and I will never be elected to anything, I would never, ever, not even once, meet with anybody that's doing it, because it just totally takes any kind of accusation that you did this or that or the other thing behind closed doors, or you did it, and you didn't bring the information forward, or the developer is trying to twist your arm and say this to you and then say this to that guy and then say this to that guy to see how he or she can get his plan approved. I just think that's the safest way for especially small communities to go when people are, constantly running into each other. Never met with a developer. Never done it.
Yeah, I would like to see more strict guidelines put in place around that for sure. I've been an advocate of that. And you say never, never. I said I might think of a case, but certainly I would totally document it if I ever did it. But I don't know why you do need to do that. I don't like town councilors, negotiating all these things on the fly. I think it ought to be in the rule book. Now, public benefit becomes a very difficult thing here, and let's
talk about public benefit.
I've had debates with Dan and others, and there's as many opinions on this as there are people on council, and that's where it gets to be tricky. I get that when Jim was here, I like Jim, but when Jim was here, he wanted
which Jim
Atterholt.
Okay.
He was, he liked the leeway in there, and I don't like the leeway in there. I don't like thinking my town councilors are, playing loosey-goosey with the rules.
But here's what the dilemma is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tom. You're smarter than I am. You have a comprehensive plan and a land development code that allow people to bring whatever they want to bring if they put together a CPD or whatever, or development agreement, which was supposed to be for mom and pops, and turns out it wasn't. You give them the opportunity to come in the back door with one of these things and say, if you provide us enough public benefit, we can give you, we're not even going to define what we can give you, but if you show us what the public benefit is, and we're not even going to define what the public benefit is. Do you see how crazy that is? I mean, it just seems, it makes no sense to I'm not speaking for developers, but it almost seems like you're not giving them any direction.
Well, that's one of the biggest problems is that the developers, several have talked to me and said that they don't like the uncertainty, and some projects aren't coming forward because of the uncertainty. What can they get? And I would rather see it more fixed. And I get the fact that there ought to be leeway, and I know Dan doesn't want a formulatic process that says you get this for this. And that is tough with public benefit. If you install a bathroom, you get 50 more square feet or X increase in your density. He doesn't want that, and I get why, but I'm looking for another solution, and I hope and I think we can get to another solution through the LPA.
All right, let me ask you this, Tom. So the Sea Gypsy, I think I brought this up with Jim last week, and I bring the Sea Gypsy up because it's a piece of property that I know is small. It used to be a several unit little resort, like a mom and pop boutique. The property is so small. If they wanted to make any money by rebuilding, they would have to go up. They have no property to offer you any kind of public benefit. What do? How do you want, if you want the mom and pops to rebuild, how does the Sea Gypsy rebuild according to your rules?
Well, in this case, if you look at it, the Sea Gypsy could come in and say, because they would have to go up a floor, and
at least
what would help with that process is that the developer, say, is that Scott in this case?
Yeah, for now,
Scott would get out there and say, hey, listen, I've got this idea in mind, like several buildings have done down in Times Square, And he could get with his community, the neighbors, and hold charrettes or hold team
Fair
meetings.
enough. Oh, yeah.
And if he gets consensus and buy-in from the people that are around him, then I think that's a public benefit.
You're
And he
talking
says,
one more floor. That's what you said.
It-
One floor?
it could be.
What if it's 7?
No, not going to be 7. Probably.
What if it's 6?
If his neighbors agree that that's a good idea, you got to put some priority. If we're just going to do it and we're not going to put a rule book in, then the next best thing is to let's get the people in this community to buy into what that public benefit. Well, how do you get there? You get there through things like charrettes, and you pay particular attention to those people.
But you're
within
really
500
clouding
feet.
the water there. If you have a charrettes, that's not. Maybe I'm misunderstanding you. That you're not saying that's public benefit.
No, but they establish the public benefit.
But they don't. But they have no property. What could they give you? They have nothing. They have no view corridor. They have no property. They're going to go up higher than they were before.
Well,
and the rule book says you got to give me something.
As it has been said in the development of the South End, that for down there, it may be you give us a restaurant. It may be you give us a rooftop bar. It may be whatever that community decides it is in that neighborhood. Then give us that, and we'll give you this in exchange.
Okay. It's still fuzzy, even though I hear what you're saying.
People want to keep it fuzzy, and I'm not the most comfortable. I would rather have a rule book, but I understand the difficulties in having a rule book too, because then developers may play with that. But do I think Scott can get his building built? Yeah, I think he can get consensus of the neighborhood, the voters, the neighbors next door to get his building built.
I'm going to go off tangent here a little bit. What do you think of this guy at the Kia Estero parking lot and how he gets away with all this illegal parking and nothing seems to be done by the town?
Well, it's I really wish we could find a way to settle with him. And I think that it was Jim Atterholt that said you need to go back and see what we can negotiate. In the end, the guy's a businessman, right? Eventually, I think that he'll realize that we can get to some kind of settlement between him and the town that's mutually beneficial for all. And I would hate to see us stop all negotiations with him because of what he does with his parking lot. I think there is a workable solution out there. I think we just need to keep coming back to the negotiating table and working with him until we find that solution.
He keeps negotiating and paying the fine and then restarts the whole thing.
He can pay that fine, but eventually he'll see that there may be solutions that are easier for him than continue to pay that fine. Yeah, the system doesn't allow him to do much other than foreclose on it sometime in the future or put such a high lien on it. But then you have to wait till he sells the property, which could be forever.
What did you think of the Neptune pulling their project? Did you think that was their plan all along, or they ran into roadblocks with financing, or what do you think?
Can't speculate. Don't know. Haven't talked to him about it. It's unfortunate, but it could be any of those things. I haven't discussed it. I think the difficult thing was that some of the stuff came out about it being political. I don't know. Is that Trump political, or is that
no? I don't think. I just want to clarify. I don't think it was politics in the way that the council approved it. They went all through the proper procedures and got it approved. I think there's a contingent of people that are worried about the uncertainty of how the council will be made up, and projects will or will not be approved. And I think when we get to London Bay, that's one of them.
What's that got to do with an approved project?
Well, it is approved now, but the banks look at financing and say, hey, what's going on down there? Nothing else is being built, and more people are going to come down so I can finance a project that big. I'm not making things up. I'm just telling you what people told me. I don't know if it's true or not.
You're telling me Neptune's financing is based on London Bay?
No, not at all. No, I'm just saying, no, I didn't mean to tie the two together. I said, well, we'll talk about that differently. I'm just saying that was the information that people ask about down here.
Yeah.
It's not an atmosphere that is builder friendly right now.
No, I disagree. If they know what the code is today, they can build to the code.
That's correct. Yeah. All right, I'm with you. So what is the proper code? Like 3 over flood? How high will you go?
Well, right now it's 30 feet over base flood elevation if the new comprehensive plan gets approved.
All right. So how is that as high as you'll go?
As I said previously, if they hold charrettes, if they get the community together, and that's really it's not on the town, it's on the developer. If they get the community together and the community agrees, I mean particularly 500 feet people and others agree, then it's that weighs heavily in my decision about whether to put that in there or not. If all the people around Seagate had said, yeah, we want a 17-story building, I could see, yeah, but that's, there's no way that's going to happen. So there's not and some of it depends on these trade-offs being public benefit too. So they would have to demonstrate, whatever these buildings are, some kind of public benefit.
Did you think the Neptune gave the town enough public benefit back, and would you have voted for it?
I didn't study that one enough. I didn't follow Neptune that closely that I could tell you one way or the other.
Well, it was 100% over the density, and you got a few parking spots and a restaurant, and I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
That's the way you present it. Like it was a bad trade-off.
No, I mean, Dan was the only. I think Dan was the only no vote. I would think it was unanimous at the LPA, and so. You wouldn't.
From that perspective, it looks like a bad trade. It looks like a bad trade-off from the fact that they didn't build it eventually. So yeah, maybe they should have tried for a smaller building, and that would have been easier to build, more affordable.
Maybe
they asked for more units, and it became more difficult for them. Why not try small?
Well, I can't speak for builders, but my assumption was that the cost of the building, and they needed X number of units. They actually went back and got 8 more units than they got originally approved because they couldn't make the numbers work with the number of units that they had. So that's why they asked for more. So do you think that there's enough interest in that piece of property that it could be sold quickly and built on that lot?
There's just so many of these barrier islands with so much real estate. Eventually that gets developed. So I have no fear that's not going to get snatched up by somebody else if they decide to get rid of it, or somebody else builds to their plan on that lot.
What do you think the time frame might be, knowing the atmosphere of what the market is? And
well, there's global issues involved in that, and really hard to predict. But these places haven't sit long. If you look at after Sandy hit the Jersey coast, it took them a while to get started, but that you look at it today, that's 100% rebuilt.
So other like the Whale opened, we have the Salty Crab that's hit the wall because of what happened at the beach bar, and they're trying to figure out the mitigation stuff over there. A couple of projects, I don't know what the hell's going on in Times Square with Terry or what's going to be built over there. I mean, there's really nothing going on right now commercially.
Well, I think first of all, commercial takes a little bit longer to move through the queue than these residential projects do. And there's a thought for you too. Develop residential if you want to develop something. Apparently, there's a huge shortage in new buildings for residential. I just read from, I think it was Alex King's website. So those properties they're sprouting up all over the island. I think, yes, there was some uncertainty and sometimes it's not the best thing to move too fast, because things can change, like this wave mitigation wall. That's a complete game changer. And if you would have run out there before that and developed, and this provides a significant alternative. I was talking to Tom at Loyola, and he's got plans that are different than what he was first thinking of, that if he can integrate a wave mitigation wall into his property, he can change the whole layout of that property, and to everyone's benefit. And what a great idea. And had he charged ahead and been digging dirt and all that, it would have been not an option for him. So it may be in his best benefit to wait a little while until things are defined better, like a wave mitigation wall, and we can figure out how to do that all together. And eventually we'll get there.
Do you want to see the island wait a little longer, or do you want to see commercials start to build up?
Well, of course I want to see it build up, but if there are critical factors in the way of making that happen, then let's wait and make sure that we got our ducks in a row before we get those projects started. Are you
convinced that the mitigation wall, like I know Paul at the cottage is waiting to see if the mitigation wall, which it's going to cost him, I think, $500,000 to put in, if that actually helps him be able to put on the ground floor what he wants to put on the ground floor. I mean, I'm starting to get the impression that you're not going to get a guarantee, because FEMA doesn't give guarantees for anything.
Well, that's my biggest concern also, is that as a businessman, I wouldn't do it unless I was 99.9 99% sure that FEMA was going to prove that. I think we need to work on that and help that. The consultants have said, I haven't sat down with the consultants, but I would like to understand how do we get that up to 100% that, it is this for that,
Yes.
not I'm going to build this and it might get this.
Yeah.
I don't build
100%.
betting on the come. Betting on the come is not a good way to run a business.
Would you have voted for the Moss Marina project?
I don't know. I wasn't enough of those discussions either. I wished, my gut told me I wished it would have been the same height as the building next door to it. I think it's a story over that, but that's my wish. I suppose I did not look in enough of the details to see if there was enough public benefit there to give them what I consider to be maybe an additional floor.
Would you have voted for Myerside?
My concern about that was the parking that we gave up on that. I need to drill into and understand how they can, how it doesn't seem like there were enough parking spots provided for that facility. And it's sad too that they haven't put shovels in ground also.
If there was enough parking, would you have voted for Myerside?
Probably.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk about London Bay. As it's proposed right now, it's 15. One of the buildings is 15 stories. There are other buildings. One of the public benefits is going to be a little teeny tiny tiki bar in the corner of the entire piece of property that, well, the people want something down there like that. So that's public benefit. But it's 15 stories, and it's in an area where there are some buildings that, I don't know if they're 15, but they're taller than they are in other areas. What are your thoughts on that project?
It was, I think it was a little more than a year ago on my first appearance on your show.
It's been that long?
Yeah, a little more than a year ago, before, probably right after the Seagate. And you asked me what would be a fair trade-off on the Seagate proposal for 17 stories. And I facetiously said, if they gave me all of the property on the Gulf side and deeded that all to the town, then I might give them 17 stories. I got blasted after that happened.
Really?
Blasted after that happened.
Because of the height.
The community came back to me and said, that is absolutely not a fair trade, and it would be ridiculous. When I thought, well, it's never going to happen. So for me to say, this for this, for this, for this, I'm telling you, the community as a whole is, and I walk the streets. This doesn't sound right, does it?
No, it doesn't sound right.
But
do you wear one of those dresses when you walk the street?
Okay. You put one on.
No, well, no, you can't. I can't lose a bet big enough to put one of those things on.
So after that, I got slapped enough to realize that, the people on this island want to stick to the comp plan. To the comp plan. And that is the general sentiment on the island. And that's what they voted for in the recall. There was a guy in the recall that said, oh yeah, build tall buildings. Went down in flames.
Yeah, well, he never had a chance. It wouldn't matter what he said. But put that on him. He never had a chance.
Not true. If you build big buildings, you had a candidate. If you wanted tall buildings, you had a candidate for tall buildings.
Well,
got creamed in the election. People do not want those tall buildings. So the answer is, in my mind, unless you get with those residents and you convince them somehow. And so you tell me how many charrettes that London Bay has had. Show me that you registered the voters, sign in sheet, registered the voters and the 500 feet people, and you got their buy off on it. Because one of the problems we've done in the past is that, we form these groups, and then the people sit on the groups are all commercial interests, investor interest, or people off the island interest. And they meet with somebody like Seagate and they say, oh yeah, we need to do all this stuff. They're not the voters on this island.
Let me be more specific. So you came in second in the recall, and obviously we all know it's because of Seagate. The other stuff, we got it ignited, and it was about the redevelopment of Seagate in a residential neighborhood. You said you walked the streets, you talked to people. Is 15-ish stories in that spot going to float well with them?
I don't think so.
So you would vote no?
No, I can't tell you how I would
Well, you're
vote.
not on the town council. You can
but-
say whatever you want.
But I might be on the town
You might.
council.
So you're
Same kind of question.
all right.
I can't answer that. That shows prejudice. Were I to get to town council, it shows prejudice.
Well, I could say the same thing, or anybody could say the same thing. But your opinion is you feel. I just want to zero in on this. Your opinion is you feel like, from walking and talking to people, they're not in favor of a 15-story building even in that spot, which is around bigger buildings.
Correct.
Okay. All right. How would you grade this current town council over the last year? A being the best.
Oh, not good.
Well, that's not really a grade, Tom. A grade.
That's the best I can give you.
Come on, A, B, C, D, or F.
That's a.
What is a not good? Is that a C? What is a not? Is a not good a C? Everybody, or is it as good as a C? Or a D?
Well, some things really concern me. That
All right, go ahead.
That, for example, the budget. The town needs more money, and the fact that one person can hold up the budget and just block everything that happens is. And the other counselors were extremely frustrated by this. And Tom Torgerson came out and spoke, and Ellen came out and spoke in front of the budget committee. I think that we need to get Will more money for a lot of things. Some of it is redevelopment related. Some of it is emergency fund related. Financially, we're okay, but we've also hamstrung the community from doing all the other things that we should be doing and would help to be doing to get this island going again. So you puckered them up to where they were prior to the hurricane, and there needs to be a little bit of influx of funds coming from somewhere in order to accelerate the redevelopment of this town. And that was very unfortunate to see. So the budget is one thing. There's a specific example.
Any other specific example?
I can't think of one now.
But not good is the grade. After seeing the new town manager for 6 months, how would you grade him?
I haven't met with Will one-on-one. I'll do that on the 12th. I like him. Of course, I'm ex-military.
Yeah.
I understand chain of command. I like the way he approaches things. I think he could benefit from some of my commercial business knowledge that being in the service doesn't expose you to. There are some things in terms of, I've been a big promoter of workflow, and of course I was in the IT industry for years, so automating processes, and that's an example of what we could do to spend some money in the short term and gain a lot in the long term. Having everyone know where their project is and everything that's going on in the town, dashboards like Sanibel has around redevelopment. You can't really tell where we are, what percentage we're redeveloped. If we could automate that stuff, I think I could help with those processes and make it more visible to the community as a whole. I think we'd work well together.
What do you think the mood of the island is, the residents on the island?
Oh, I think it's hopeful and positive. How many Mrs. Ropers do we have here today? It's
however many we have. Too many are dressed like men, or men dressed like women. No, overall,
some of them we know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell who they are. Alex King has got the biggest wig on so far. So
I think people are hopeful, positive. Let's eliminate some of these barriers and let's get this thing moving some more. Let's look at energizing small business. I think Scott brought up CRA funds at the last one. Was it MP meeting? Yeah. CRA funds need to be looked at. That's a great idea.
It's a great idea.
Redo the tax money. Let's go.
So you'd be in favor of a millage increase. How much? I'm guessing, right? Because for what you just said, you think the millage needs to go up.
I do, but I'm careful because I know your position on this too, is that once they get in, they never go away. I think it needs to be project based, identify what it's for, and it's for things with an end date. I mean, it's got to be, this is not a forever thing. This is based more project related. We need to get this happening. Like, let's establish an incubation zone in the property next the where the taqueria is and where the parking lot is. Let's get the incubation zone set up in there, and let's do that on a temporary basis and fund the rental of that for a few months. And then let's make this a program for the city for a year, but let's have it sunset. Anything that sunsets, I'm okay with. I think I would have passed the millage at what it was initially proposed at.
Yeah, and Fort Myers Beach has a fairly low millage rate.
It's crazy small, and relative to the communities around us. And I know everybody hates their taxes, but it's relatively speaking crazy small. And that millage is only 27% of our general fund, and it's only 9% of our total spending, because a lot of our spending comes from different avenues. So it's that 27% factor, but it's one of the few knobs that we have, dials that we have to change the town, because a lot of things are restricted by the state, and there's a chance that millage goes away for homestead properties, and we talk about that too. But a lot of things that you adjust, you can only adjust, but you can't make money on it, like permit fees and stuff. They're not money making avenues for the town. Like, people even at the LPA thought that impact fees could make money for the town. You don't make money on impact fees. All they are is cost recovery. So you can't count on them. They're meaningless. And we got to find these other avenues to increase revenues that don't have to be offset with expenses.
You might not be able to increase revenue soon if the state gets its way or the governor gets his way, at least on homesteaded properties. It looks like it's, at least if you read up, it seems like it's so secretive about what's going on up there, and maybe nothing's going on, and maybe the governor is going to call a special session just for property tax relief. But man, if they do away with property taxes, small communities are screwed.
I think there are plans, and there's too many. Nobody wants to get into it yet. I'd love to do. Well, I wanted to do scenario planning at the town financial level to say what happens when we get rid of this. But I think that there's so many plans right now that you can't do scenario planning on all of them, or you'd be burning up all your cycles to do that. But once it gets down to one or two or three plans and they start to move forward, then we can do scenario planning at a town level to say, okay, when this goes away in these proposals, this is how we were going to do replacement revenues, and then we can react to it. And I'm sure there will be some suggestions around it. But of course, the conspiracy theorists think that they're trying to get rid of home rule. You know, if you cut off all the funding for local towns and residences, then they don't have money to run.
They do try and do that too in different ways.
Yeah,
but
they do. But I'm not sure that. I think this is a give to the people that are homesteaded. I think it's a give.
Yeah, and the CFO, I did read a story yesterday. The CFO said he was sending people out to every municipality in the state of Florida to cut out waste. He must think, or the state must think, that municipalities are just collecting too much of the taxpayers' money and not spending it wisely. And it was billions of dollars that he said he was going to cut out. And it's just like, how do you know what how do you go into each municipality and decide whether or not they're spending it the right way? Isn't that what an election is called? Yeah. I mean, if you think your money's being spent unwisely, you kick them out of office. But whatever. I mean, I have a homesteaded house, so if my taxes go away, I'm going to be happy. But you're going to have to pay for it. It's not like you're not going to pay for it in a different way. You're going to pay somehow.
Well, the thought is to shift it to people that aren't homesteaded. So you shift it to, for example, tourists
or low-income people. Because I mean, that's the way it sounds to me. You have a lot of low-income people that probably are renting or don't have. I mean, how do you not impact the lower income level people by saying by doing it that way and that only way? I mean, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with you. But I haven't seen what those offsets are. We need to look at what they anticipate are the offsets to the revenues that would be captured through the ad valorem taxes.
Well, we're running out of time. It's 10:57 already. So two last questions. If you are appointed, or even if you're not appointed, will you run in November?
Yes.
All right. I like that. When you're not wishy-washy on that one. You are running again in November. So tell people, or maybe a council member or two that might be watching, why they should appoint you on I think it's the 17th.
Well, I think I have all the skills necessary to do that job. I think I have the support of many, many people in this town who have voted for me and sent in letters of recommendation to the town council members. I think that I have my heart in the right place. I think I bring some good ideas about what to do in terms of getting small business back, getting accountability into the system, bringing transparency into the financials, which I think our town does a good job of managing financials, but we don't present the data, particularly to the public, very well in an understandable way, and getting workflow. So I would love to be in the position, and I think I'd be a real asset to the town.
Thank you for coming on, Tom. Big hand for Tom Brady, everybody. Not running yet. He is asked to be appointed to the open seat on the town council, which will be 1 week from Tuesday. And our final candidate is going to be John McLean, and John will be here in this very seat on Saturday of next week. And that'll be it. And then the vote will be on the following Tuesday. So stay tuned for our final interview with John McLean. And before you hang up the phone, everybody, remember, we have sponsors of the show that need you to give them a call if this is something that you need. Diamond Head is for rent. They have 3 weeks available, not the whole hotel. Well, at some point, probably the whole hotel, different rooms here and there. But there's a condo which has a premium Gulf view on the 8th floor. Imagine that. Imagine looking over the Gulf of America on the 8th floor. It's only $2,300 a week. It's a 60% savings. They have double sliders to the Gulf, a pool, a restaurant, free parking, not in the room, but as you know, they have a pool there, a beautiful pool right there at the Diamond Head. Weeks are coming up, so call right away. It's the weeks of February 21st through Saturday, March 14th. You call Bob. Bob is a really nice guy, and his phone number is 248-877-3939, 248-877-3939. And finally, Power Block Builders. If you want to build a house that doesn't fall off the stanchions into the sand and drop in the dirt and sit there for months and months and years, and give Power Block Builders a call. They specialize in elevated homes. They are committed to helping families and communities recover after the devastating impacts of hurricanes. Their team specializes in creating resilient, safe, and beautifully crafted homes so you can rebuild not just a house, but a home where you're making memories. Please call Oscar. He's no grouch. Give Oscar a call, 239-849-1919. 239-849-1919. Thanks to Power Block Builders. Thanks to Bob. And thanks to Mom's Home Cooking for sponsoring the show today. Tomorrow, our show is at 10 o'clock at Wahoo Willie's with the mayor, where the panels, the flood panels, will be a big discussion. I'm not sure Kim will be there tomorrow because they have this thing in Cape Coral called the Puppy Bowl at the Cape Coral Animal Shelter, and we're trying to figure out how to get some video of that. You know, you can never go wrong with kids and puppies. And they do this cool Puppy Bowl thing before the Super Bowl tomorrow, which Seattle is probably going to win tomorrow. So we're trying to get some videos of the Puppy Bowl. But thank you all for watching. Thank you all for coming. Enjoy Mrs. Roper event today on Fort Myers Beach. It's a beautiful day. We'll see you tomorrow at Wahoo Willie's. Bye-bye.